today we are doing 1.6 absolute value equations. As I told you, we will not get to inequalities in our condensed Algebra 2 pacing here. I might do one at some point if we have time at the end of class, but we'll see. So, what is the definition of absolute value? Somebody unmute their mic and tell me. Definition of absolute value. Go for it.
Isn't it the distance from 0?
Perfect. That's the exact definition I was going to write down. Excellent job. Distance from 0. So many of you may look at that and say, oh, that's nice. Those are 3 words. I have no idea what the hell they mean. So distance from 0, what on earth are we talking about? Well, here's 0. Let's say I had negative 10 over here. Let's say I had positive 10 over here. So how far is negative 10 away from 0? Show me with your hands. How far is negative 10 away from 0? Yeah, it sure is. It's 10 away from 0. How far is positive 10 away from 0? Same thing, right? That's good. It's like a little dance move we're doing there. I like it. So 10 away from 0. So you could say distance from 0. You could also say, right, you can always add to the definitions that are right. If you find that definition unsatisfactory for your learning, you could say something like absolute value is always positive. So if that helps you to understand it better, right, always positive. I'll write what I think is the best, but what I think is the best is not always the best for you guys. So if you need to add or change or write a different word than I wrote, and even if you're unsure about how you wrote the definition and want to ask me if it still makes sense, that's not a bad idea at all. So just distance from 0. So why the hell would I talk about that? Well, when we have our first problem here, the absolute value of 2x minus 1 equals 5, we must write 2 equations. Okay, because we have to both consider the positive 5, it's positive 5 away from 0, as well as the fact that this equation will also be negative 5 away from 0. So we have to do both of those problems. Okay, so when we do that, we're going to write the first equation. I say this. I say we're going to write it as is. So there's always a little caveat to that. I'm not going to write the absolute value. I'm just not going to change any of the signs. That's what I mean by writing it as is. And then second equation, we are going to flip. That's all I'm writing is flip. If you need additional words to help you understand what I mean by flip, here's what I mean by flip. I write the equation, the left side never changes. What a good thing to write down if you know you're the kind of person that's going to change the left side by accident. The right side, the sign flips. So you can write flip the sign if you want to, where I said flip. For me, flip's good. I get it. It's a reminder. I'll write it for all like 4 or 5 problems we do today, and that's a kind of built-in reminder for me. So we are going to just solve these things. Add 1. We can do that on both the left and right equation. So we'll just add 1 to both sides. How many of you guys have looked at how many slides we have today, just out of curiosity, before I actually said that? I saw some of you look, right? So it's good to look, to know, right? This is a short lesson. You're like, hell yeah, we're going to have a bunch of homework time. So I probably won't have math homework tonight as long as I keep my act together. Okay? So when we add 1 to both sides, we have 2x equals 6. When we add 1 to the right equation, we have 2x equals negative 4. Last step on both equations is to divide by 2. So both of these equations right below where I wrote as is and flip are 2-step linear equations. You can see the 2 steps by the purple stuff I wrote down. Those are the 2 steps. Okay, it's important to learn that math vocabulary, as I've emphasized 8 million times this year already. It is a linear equation because it's x to the first power. If it's x to the second power, or x squared, that's a quadratic equation, and everything changes. But linear is easier. So here we have x equals 3. On the right equation, we have x equals -2. Your homework might tell you on these two-step linear kinds of equations that you need to check the answer. I say don't check the answer on this kind of equation because you don't need to. Just do your process correct. They're not that hard. These are little baby problems. You just have to do 2 of them for every one problem. No big deal. All right, next one. So, first helpful hint of the day. You're writing helpful hints. How many people have 2 different colors right now? Oh, that's good. You guys are good. I like it. So, in your different color, hopefully you're using the same color for the helpful hints every single day, at least every single chapter, so they pop out when you look at your notes. First helpful hint is you must get the absolute value by itself first. Get the absolute value by itself first. Then you write your 2 equations, okay? So when I'm talking about get the absolute value by itself first, I'm talking about, oh, that's obnoxious. I'm talking about just that x plus 2 part. I need to get all the extra stuff away from that. Then I can write my 2 equations. So this is still kind of like a 2-step linear equation, right? If we just think of the absolute value of x plus 2 like an x, 3x minus 1 equals 8. I'm going to add 1, divide by 3, then write my 2 equations. Those are my 2 steps, add 1, divide by 3. So I'll show you what that looks like. We're going to go 3 times absolute value, x plus 2, minus 1 equals 8. And we're going to add 1 to both sides. Right, all of this before you write your 2 equations. So we have 3 times absolute value of x plus 2 equals 9. Now, God forbid you end up with a fraction when you divide here. You might have a meltdown, but you know what? You can get through it. You got a graphing calculator. You do not, however, on this problem end up with a fraction. Everything divides equal, so everything's good. So we have absolute value, x plus 2 equals 3. Now we write our 2 equations. First one as is, second one flip it. So first as is, second flip. So much of how I teach is thinking of myself as an Algebra 1 or 2 student, trying to realize the things that would have helped me to stop making so many silly mistakes. I was good at math, obviously, right? I'm a freaking math teacher. But I always know, like, if you ask my high school buddies, do you think Evans would have become a math teacher? Many of them would have burst out laughing. Like, not a chance in hell. Are you kidding me? Okay? So I based it off me being a knucklehead, 17-year-old, or 16, as many of you are, and trying to prevent me from making those same stupid mistakes. So do these things, because they will help you. As is, we have x plus 2 equals 3. When we flip it, you only flip on the right side of the equal sign. If you're the kind of person that needs to write that down, write that down. Only flip after the equal sign, right? So we're going to make that 3 a negative 3. So we have the same, this is just a one-step linear equation. I said 1 and wrote 1. We subtract 2 on both sides, both equations. I had a moment. So we end up with, on the left equation, x equals 1. We end up with, on the right equation, x equals negative 5. Okay? And we're good. If you want to go all the way back up here and plug it back in, you can plug it back in. When you plug in your x values and you do all the math, you should end up with positive 8. Notice how up top here it says graph the solutions. Let me show you just how stupid graphing the solutions are, because it's kind of fun. We'll do it one time and never again. At least for this kind of problem, never again. So if we graph this solution, here's what you do. Given that you're not in kindergarten anymore, don't do that. That's dumb. So if they ask you to graph when it's not like greater than or equal to, or you're graphing like a number line kind of thing and you're just making dots on a number line, don't graph. Or you can graph on a quiz and then I'll make fun of you and probably take a point off just because I should, right? So don't graph that. That's dumb. Making dots on a number line, you made it past kindergarten. Okay, try this one on your own. Remember to get the f2 value by itself first. When you're done, please put your little hand raising up. Your virtual hand raising up, that is. I cannot wait to have all you guys in person. It is so much better for me as a teacher because I only see your head move in the tiny little tile thing. It's not very exciting for me. So having actual interaction with my students is what gets me fired up to teach. So starting next Tuesday, you guys will be coming in person. Expect that first Tuesday, if you have 5th period class, the first period of the day, for the check-in process to be cumbersome, right? We were talking about it in our faculty meeting yesterday. That check-in process, I'm sure, will not be smooth day one. So try to get here a little bit early. Don't be a knucklehead and get to class 20 minutes late. It just makes you look bad. Nobody else but you. Okay? We got a virtual hand, and an actual hand raise. You good, William?
I was wondering if you had to do, solve the, 2 equations, the as-is and the flip one, or if you just need to solve one of them.
Yeah, the absolute value, you got to write 2 equations. That's kind of like your built-in double check for that question. You see absolute value, always have 2 answers. So yeah, when you guys come in person, I've told you this already, I will tell you again because you're high school kids and you don't always pay attention. I will be wearing an N95 mask and one of those face shields. Why would I go through that hell of wearing all of that crap every day? Because if one of you little weasels has COVID in my classroom, if I'm not next to you for 15 minutes, which I will never be next to you for 15 minutes, because my God, you want to talk about our awkward moment? Us being that close together for 15 minutes? No, it's not going to happen. Okay? But if I wear that N95 and a face shield, I do not have to quarantine. That's why I will be wearing it probably through the rest of the year. Now I've got this obnoxiously baby sensitive skin, so you know the whole mask knee thing, mask acne? It's going to be a shit show for all of us, so just don't worry about it. We're all going to look stupid, right? We're all wearing masks. I'm going to be wearing a face shield and a mask. I'm going to look like the biggest idiot around. So do not worry about it, okay? But that way I don't have to quarantine, because I don't want to have to go teach at home. I want to teach you guys in person, because being at home makes me sad. I love my home, don't get me wrong, but teaching from home sucks in the worst possible way. I don't like it at all. Alright, I'm going to start doing this problem. We'll see if you guys got it right. First thing we're going to do is get that absolute value by itself first. So we have 2 times absolute value of x plus 9, and you can take your virtual hand thing down. Last step in getting the absolute value by itself is to divide by 2. So we have absolute value of x plus 9 equals 2. So now we can write our two equations as is and flip. Right? I know it seems stupid to write that every single time, but I write that every single time so that I don't screw it up, right? So if the teacher writes it every single time, don't be a dumbass, you write it down too, okay? So first equation as is, x plus 9 equals 2. Second equation, x plus 9 equals negative 2. Right? So what a great time to check along the way, because if I go through this whole problem and I have the wrong answer in the end, it's going to kind of piss me off. So I'm just going to go and double check, make sure I didn't screw anything up. Modeling what I hope you two would do. Looks good. So last step here, we're going to subtract 9 from both sides. On both equations, both sides of both equations. And on the left, we end up with x equals negative 7. On the right, we end up with x equals negative 11. Raise your actual hand if you got it right. Lovely. Very good. So, as I told you before, when you have these easier lessons, appreciate them, because trust me, it'll get plenty hard. Your friggin' smoke will be coming out of your ears at various points during the year, and it's really student dependent what's really hard for kids and what's not. Sometimes kids that struggle the most do the best on the hardest topics. It's one of those weird things. I haven't quite figured it out yet. Well, I think I figured it out, but we'll talk about that as the time goes. So notice up top here it talks about extraneous solutions. So what the heck is an extraneous solution? Remember, you see absolute value, you know you get two solutions. Starting point, right? Absolute value, two solutions. If we have an extraneous or extra solution, that would indicate, common sense would say, maybe one of those two solutions won't work. Okay? So the irritating part of these problems is we go through that whole process we did before, then we have to plug our answers back in to see which answer works and which answer does not work. Okay? Now, your options, you could have both answers work, you could have one answer work, you could have neither answer work. We have a problem like that. We do, I think it's from this section, where you do all of this work and neither answer works. And I love looking at the expression on your faces when that happens, because you exhibit a little bit of frustration there, which humors me. Okay, so step one with absolute value, we got to get the absolute value by itself first. Do we have the absolute value by itself? Sure do. Okay, so now I can make my two equations. So first equation as is, I say as is, even though it's not really, because we leave off the absolute value, but whatever, you know what I mean. So I write one without absolute value. Second equation, we're going to flip. Now notice I'm going to add something to my flip in the hopes that you guys will not screw this up. We're going to say flip both signs. Okay, so we're going to flip both signs now. So it's going to be negative 4x plus 5. So I'm going to show you kind of mathematically why this works. Remember, with absolute value, we have to consider both the negative and positive answer. So mathematically, what we're doing is we're multiplying that right side of the equal sign by negative 1. So if it's me taking my own Algebra 2 class, I would never write that step. I would just flip both signs. I just want to show you why you do flip both signs. So we just write this the one time. So 3x plus 2 equals negative 4x minus 5. And now we can just go through and do the process. So you see how much longer the process takes when we have to go through and check the solutions. It's cumbersome, but you'll get over it. Get rid of the smallest variable first. You don't have to, just preventing you from making stupid mistakes. So we get 2 equals x plus 5. Subtract 5 from both sides. So our first answer is x equals -3. Remember, I just kind of have that habit of writing the variable on the left. You don't have to, I just do. So again, getting rid of the smallest variable first, we're going to add 4x to both sides. So we get 7x plus 2 equals -5. Subtract that 2 over, and we get 7x equals -7. Last step, we're going to divide both sides by 7. So we get x equals -1. Okay. Now we got to do that irritating check step. Myra, you got a question? You got your little virtual hand thing up, just so you know. There you go. Okay, so -3, -1. We're going to plug that in. I'm going to go to another slide. So notice how that too can happen. Now we have 7 slides. That'll happen. So we had x equals -1 and -3. I'm just writing that so I don't forget. Actually, I think I'm going to have to write it again the way this thing works, but we'll see. So I'm just going to copy this equation to the next slide. And I will have to write the -1 and -3 again. So we don't have 8 slides. I know it looks like we do, but yeah. And I'm going to plug in x equals -3 and -1. So guess what? I'm going to go back and check and make sure that I wrote my answers down correctly. Because if I plug all this crap in and go through that process and I plugged in the wrong number, that's going to make me feel sad inside. I don't like feeling sad inside, so I'm just going to double check. Good. -1, -3, I'm good. Okay, so we're going to plug it in. Now you keep the absolute value when you plug it in, so just don't forget that. And I'm just going to plug in this kind of shell thing and then plug in the numbers in a different color so you can see it more clearly. So I'm going to plug in the -3 here and here. So I always like to emphasize with the highlights so you can see, right, we're just plugging in the first of our 2 answers to see if it works. Remember, absolute value is always positive. So we have absolute value of 3 times -3 is -9 plus 2 equals -12 plus 5. -12 plus 5 is -7. So I want to get -7 on the left side. Can I get -7 on the left side? If absolute value is always positive, can I get -7 on the left side? Sure can. So right now I could cross it off, -3 does not work. If you can figure that out that quickly, more power to you, right? Then you could just cross it off, -3 does not work. If you need to show that step, no problem, show the step. Absolute value of -7 is +7, so 7 does not equal -7. Those are opposites. They are not equal. Okay? So -3 does not work. So you can show it like that with a not equal to. That's fine. You could put a big cross through it if it doesn't work. That's fine. If you just want to cross off the -3 up there, any of those methods are fine. You just in some way need to show me you understand that solution works or does not. So when it does work, I just put a big check mark by it. Okay. So we're going to do the next one now. So absolute value of 3 plus 2 equals 4. plus 5. And we're going to plug in the -1 now. So notice I will even change my highlight color because then you can tell exactly where stuff went, where it came from, whichever way you're looking at it. So I just recommend you do that because it'll just make more sense when you study in the long run. 3 times -1, -3 plus 2. Right side, 4 times -1, -4 plus 5. Okay, so I don't personally like thinking about -4 plus 5. I'd much rather think about 5 minus 4 because that's 1. It's just easier. If we add -3 plus 2, we end up with the absolute value of -1. The absolute value of -1 is positive 1, so those two equal one another. So when you plug in -1, it works. Remember, as I said, because I guarantee some of you have already forgotten this, with extraneous solutions, you could have 1, 0, or 2 extraneous solutions. Okay, so just remember that, because if both of them don't work, then you doubt yourself and you think you did something wrong. You may or may not have done something wrong, who knows, right? But just knowing that will help kind of ease your fears when you do these kind of problems. And go back and double check stuff so you make sure you're doing it correct. Okay? No worries. Last one you're going to do on your own and then I will do. Last one, we're already there. There's our faux slide. Alright, so do that one. Make sure you write your 2 equations. Flip both signs on the right side of equal for your second equation. Put your virtual hand up once you are done so I can gauge how quickly people do things. Okay, poll question coming up. First poll question. Have at it. Second poll question coming up. Just curious about response 1 before I give you the second. So answer the poll question, don't be lame. And then don't forget to put your virtual hand up once you're done with this problem. I know it takes a while. I'm going to start doing it now, so if you don't want to see, like open up a different tab or something, or don't look at your computer, turn it to the side so you can't see it, whatever you need to do. But put your virtual hand up once you're done. And if you're sitting there going, what the hell's going on? I can't do this math at all. Watch what I do. It will help you learn. So now I am flipping both signs, so don't forget. Many normal people would have flipped the sign right away, but, you know, I'm special. Okay. So if I'm doing this problem, and this also is a total legal math move for you guys, if you want to do 2 steps at once because you understand math well, you can show 2 steps at once, that's fine, right? No problem at all. If you get confused on this stuff and you know you're the kind of kid who makes careless errors frequently, don't do 2 steps because you're probably screwed up. I know by doing the way I'm doing it, I've got x's on the right side, so I'm going to get rid of the number on the right side. So I get negative 16 equals 2x, and then last step I'm going to divide by 2. So I get x equals negative 8 for the left equation. On the right side, I'm going to add 7x to both sides. So that means my x's will be on the left side of the equal, so I'm going to add the 2 over on the left side of the equal, so I get my variables on one side and my numbers on the other. So I get 12x. I forgot to add the 2. I'm going to do that now. 12x equals negative 12. Last step, I just divide by 12 on both sides. And I get x equals negative 1. Robert, question? Or you're done? Yeah. So take your little hand raising down if you're done, just so I know. Unless you have a question, then ask your question. Okay, we got 18 out of 24 of you voted on the first poll question, so don't be lame. Vote. Should have, there's usually a couple of kids absent, but I should have a couple more, I would guess, than 18. So voting that poll question, there we go, we got the rest, I think. Second poll question coming up. Take a look at that, ask that one, answer that one rather. Now we're going to go ahead on this problem and check for extraneous solutions. Yes, it's tedious. Yes, it sucks. Yes, you'll get over it. Okay, so I'm going to go back and double check. I think I know what my 2 answers are, but I'm going to go back and double check. Again, trying to model that behavior, so you too will do that. Negative 8, negative 1. A little smart board's having a meltdown. It'll take a sec. So negative 8, negative 1. Oh, that was weird. Come on. You can see it like flashing crazy in the bottom middle. That's when it's having a little meltdown. It's very exciting. just so you know, when technology has issues like that, I usually have at least 2 backup plans, if not 3, so it's not the end of the world if stuff breaks. I'm ready. This smart board is so old, it's amazing it's still working, to be perfectly honest. Alright, so I want to check -1 and -8. I just wrote it over there so I don't forget. So we'll plug in that -1 first. So that's where it came from. On the left side here, we have absolute value of -5 minus 2. On the right side, we have -7 plus 14. Again, I like thinking of that as 14 minus 7. I think it's easier. Absolute value of -7 is indeed +7. So that one works. Big fat check. Next one, we have absolute value 5 minus 2 equals 7 plus 14. So we have -8 in the parentheses, -8 in the parentheses. Again, use the highlight. It helps you figure stuff out when you look at it later. So on the left side here, we have absolute value of -40 minus 2. On the right side, we have -56 plus 14. -56 plus 14 is a negative number, so I already know this one does not work. If you need to continue from here, do so. -42. Then on the left side, I have absolute value of -42. Problem being, absolute value of -42 is +42, and 42 does not equal -42. Raise your actual hand if you got that one right. All the way through the check step. Good, I like it. So that's really all we're going to have time for. Here's what I encourage you to do. Remember, I told you guys to try to anticipate the kinds of problems I was going to put on a test. You need to do that for me, for every other teacher you have this year, for every teacher you have senior year, for every teacher you have, professor you have in college. All of them have tells. You can figure out what they're going to put on the test. You might have the occasional surprise, but if you can figure out what's going to be on a test and study less, you definitely want to do that, right? So what I encourage you to do is go back and look at your quiz. I've graded most of them. If you turned it in after 8 last night, I'll grade it during this period, so you might see the grades roll in as you guys work on homework. But go back and check first for the comments I made on your quiz, right? If you screwed up that perimeter story problem, I wrote the correct equation in the comments. Also, I might have written that comment, can you catch your careless error? ... It might make you scream. So if you can catch your careless error, the best way to prevent from making future careless errors is to find your own. Okay? So many of you, it was like 2x plus 4, you added 4 again as your second step instead of subtracting 4. There were careless errors like that sort. So look at that quiz first for the comments, second to then reflect back and look at your notes. Think of the things that I emphasized. Know that the things I emphasize will show up again on a quiz. Like we talked about the story problem method a lot. So you knew for damn sure there was going to be a story problem on there. You just didn't know what kind, right? So think about that as you go through so you make your learning more efficient. Because why wouldn't you, right? It just makes your life easier. And guess what? As a result, you get better grades. So just bonus all the way around, right? So that's all I got for you. You got 10:54, class is over at 11:20, so you got about 25 minutes. How do you view the comments? Let me view it as a student. I'll figure that out, and then I'll get somebody's permission. It'll just take me a second to do that. So you got the rest of the time to work on your homework. You can always have your cameras off during homework. Just make sure you turn in your homework before you leave. As soon as your homework's done, you may leave. No problem. Okay? You get an email if I make comments. Thank you, Maggie. And if you guys can figure out how to change your names so it's the actual name you use on the Google Meet, that's my challenge for any of you computer nerds out there. Embrace your nerdness and figure it out for me. I would love that. All right, I'm going to check and see if I can... You get an email for the comments? Yes. I like to change my little Schoology picture frequently. I have a whole selection of weird, funny, normal pictures. I change it all the time. So don't just anticipate you'll see me with the Nick Chubb jersey all this week for sure. When the Browns are in the playoffs, Nick Chubb will be on there. Might be a different Nick Chubb picture, but... Yeah, so, let me see, so that was it.
Yeah, the teacher comes to me on it.
Alright, hold on, let me make a list of people that had issues. I knew that would happen. It happens, no worries. So what I'll do is I've opened up the quiz. If you started an attempt, which was not good, I will fix that for you. So Ellis, Accounts.
And I should check it, letting me take it.
And what?
It's letting me take it now.
Okay. So yeah, you're good, Ellis, so we're good there. And then Sophia, did you start yours or not?
No, it wouldn't even let me start it. But I prefer to go by Sophie, just...
Sophie, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep. Until I get you in person, you have virtually no chance of me remembering that. But continue to tell me, because I will, I'll try. So Sophie, can you check and see if you have the ability to take the quiz while we're here?
Yeah, it says I can now.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so you guys are good. Anyone else have quiz issues? Good? All right, cool.
I think Lydia said in the chat that she did.
Oh,
Oh,
Lydia?
yeah, sorry, my mic wasn't working. I had some issues with the quiz. I can't get into it.
Okay, can you try right now?
Yeah.
And let me know if you can. If you can't, I will do what I need to do for you. And you guys that are taking the quiz have until midnight tonight to take that, so get her done.
Yeah, it doesn't say if I can start a new attempt.
Okay, let me look for you, Lydia. Make sure you voted in the poll. If you haven't voted in the poll, I haven't checked yet. You should be able to do it, Lydia. It shows that it says user has not made any attempts.
Okay, I'm just going to reload my page then.
Okay, I'm going to try to view the course as you and make sure I can start it as well.
Okay, yeah, I can take it.
You're good? Okay, cool. Good, so get that done by midnight today. You guys finish your homework, you can peace out, just say goodbye so I know you left.
Mr. Evans?
Yeah.
I'm questioning the extraneous stuff. Will you tell us if to find that, or should we just check wrong?
That's a very good question. I just want to pull up the homework page so I can see, because some of them told you to graph, like where you make dots on a number line. Don't do that, because I'll make fun of you. But with the extraneous, I'm just pulling the book up. Yeah, so if you're looking at the homework right now, we're doing 19 or 10 through 24 all. So you will have to check for extraneous. I'm just going to tell you right now so you can write it down. Basically, when you have x and a number, or if you just have x on the right side of equal, you have to check for extraneous. Because you have two x's, that's why. So you have to check for extraneous on 19, 20, 21, and 24. You do not have to check for extraneous on 22 and 23. So check for extraneous 19, 20, 21, 24. You don't have to check for extraneous on 22 and 23.
All right, thank you.
No worries. I gotta stop. Hey, somebody in here remind me to stop the recordings. It's my favorite thing to forget.